Good evening, everyone. I'm Christy Tostovan, Vice President of University Communications. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for what will be the first of quite a few information sessions we have about spring semester. Tonight, we're going to provide an overview of spring plans as we know them today, recognizing that as we continue to solidify plans, we'll be able to share even more detailed information with you in the weeks to come. With that in mind, I just want to remind you that we do have information sessions already on the books for Monday, November 30th. We'll be talking about health, wellness, and residential and social life. On Friday, December 4th, we will be discussing classroom experience and academic life. Friday, January 8th, preparing for back to school part 1. And then Tuesday, January 12th, we'll have preparing for back to school part 2. So as we get closer to those dates, we will share times and links for you to join those sessions. I want to start off by thanking students for the great questions that they submitted to us via last week's pulse survey, and we'll be addressing a lot of those on tonight's session. We have a full agenda with our panel of senior leaders. With us tonight, we have President Adam Weinberg, Provost Kim Copeland, Head of our COVID planning team, Alexandra Schimmer. We have Director of Athletics, Nan Carney-DeBoer, and we have Vice President of Student Development, Alex Miller, and Director of Housing, Kyrie Ann May. And with that, I am going to turn it over to President Weinberg so he can talk about our plans for spring.
Great, thanks, Christy. And thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Our goal over the next hour is just to provide as much information as we possibly can, realizing that many things are still subject to change. But let me just kind of start off by acknowledging all the hard work of our students and our faculty and our staff. It has been a challenging semester, but I think I can also say that in all my years in higher ed, I've never been more proud to be part of a college or to be part of a community as I have been this semester. It has been different, it has been difficult, but in particular, I just want to take my hat off to our students. Our students have been absolutely spectacular. You showed up committed to make this work. You stayed with it the whole semester. I know it has not always been fun. It has not always been easy, but you have a right to be proud. And I'm certainly proud to be the president of a college with students like you. So let me, as I look back on the semester, I think because of our students, because of your commitment, because of your hard work, we've been able to do a lot, right? We were able to do a lot more this semester than we thought we might be able to as we did our planning over the summer. And quite frankly, a lot more than I think a lot of other colleges were able to do. At the top of my list, I was just writing down some things this afternoon. We were able to maintain regular residential hall rooming arrangements so that students who wanted to live with their friends were able to, and students who wanted to be in singles were able to do that as well. We opened up athletics, right? It has not been a normal fall semester. I certainly have missed going to games, but I've enjoyed watching the scrimmages, and it's been fun to see practices. It's been fun to know that teams are with each other, and they're doing much more than many other places. We've been able to offer a significant number of club and intramural options. My best friend, partner, and spouse and I were up on campus yesterday, and it was super fun to watch a bunch of students playing paddle tennis. Student organizations have been able to gather and hold events. Students have been permitted to socialize with each other. First, using outdoor spaces, many spaces I thought we would never use for social life, but we did, and that was kind of fun and different. Using indoor spaces, and then finally allowing students to be able to spend time in each other's rooms. We've been able to provide more financial support, and I want to just thank all of our parents and alums who helped us kind of make some of that happen, giving students a little bit of extra money to just throw different kinds of social events. So I'm super proud. Walking around seeing students doing painting classes at Eba Pond, to outdoor movie nights, and even a haunted house in the Moonies this weekend. We've had arts performances. I'm pretty sure that there were a couple weekends we were the only live theater and arts going on in the great state of Ohio. Super cool that we were able to do that. And most importantly, we've been able to keep our students and our faculty and our staff safe. Doesn't mean we haven't had COVID on our campus. We have, and we still do. But up to this point, we've been able to avoid any large outbreaks. It is all very fragile, right? And all subject to change at any given moment. But up until now, we've done a really good job. And that's really a testament to everybody in this community. But I in particular tonight want to look at our students and say, thank you. I'm proud to be connected with you, and what you've accomplished this semester is something that will go down in Denison history as a real pride point for this college. So I'm proud. I'm proud of the fall we've had. I believe we entered the fall with good plans in place, but I'm also super proud that we leaned into our liberal arts skills, values, and habits, right? The liberal arts are about learning to deal with ambiguity. The liberal arts are about learning to rise to challenges. The liberal arts are about connecting disparate ideas to be able to kind of understand paradoxes and their complexity and find paths forward. We've used our liberal arts skills this fall. We've also learned a tremendous amount this fall. When I think about what we know now, both about COVID and how to manage it on campus, it's a lot more than we knew in August. And a lot of those learnings are what are informing at least our early thinkings about the spring semester. So let me talk a little bit about semester number 2. First, with regard to the spring, the same principles we use this fall are going to guide our decision-making and planning in November, December, and January as we get ready for the second semester. We will prioritize health and minimizing the risk of infection or transmission on our campus. That will continue to be a top priority for us. We will continue to keep our mission front and center and realize that for all of our students, this is 1/4 of your college education. So we want the second semester to provide you a life-shaping liberal arts education. We will continue to build flexibility into our plans, realizing that we have students, faculty, and staff in very different circumstances with very different sets of needs. And we want to do the best we can to meet as many of those needs as we possibly can. We will continue to build agility into our planning, recognizing that things will change, right? Things may change between now and early February. We may start the semester in February. Things may change in unexpected ways in March. But whatever the semester throws our way, we will have the agility built into our planning to be able to respond effectively and efficiently. And then lastly, lots of people have lots of views and lots of opinions, all of which is great. But we're going to be guided by reason, by rationality, and we're going to be guided by science and data. We have a great team of epidemiologists and research scientists, a great group of other experts that we are using that have been walking every step this semester, and we will continue to lean on them to make good decisions. So as we look forward to second semester, and everybody's going to talk more about this in a few minutes, let me just kind of do it at 60,000 feet. A lot of things we think at this point, all subject to change, will be somewhat similar, right? We expect that we will continue to be in an environment where mask wearing, social distancing, hand washing, all those kind of social health behaviors will continue to be important on our campus. We expect that we will continue to use properly configured shared spaces like we have this semester, right? Classrooms, more socially distanced, dining halls, the library. We will disinfect and clean more often as we did this semester. And then we will continue, we believe, to need to do continuous and very rigorous containment through symptom monitoring, testing, quarantining, contact tracing, and isolation protocols, all of which has worked well for us this semester. But a lot of things we hope will also be different. We actually hope second semester will be able to return to a little bit more semblance of normalcy. And Kim, Alexandra, and Alex are going to talk more in a minute. But let me just talk about a couple things. Academics will be a little bit different in the spring. Not every class is going to be offered remotely, although we still expect to be able to offer a robust set of options for students who need to be remote. Faculty right now are working hard on how they're going to determine their instruction modes. And we're going to make that information available to students before you sign up for classes. So you have much better information for how a faculty member anticipates offering a course. We do expect that we will test every student upon arrival. I think that'll be super important in the winter. We won't have the ability to use outdoor spaces in February like we did in August. So we plan to test everybody upon arrival, which should allow us to be able to do a lot more indoor socializing right away. I think we heard loud and clear from students that's important. It'll be particularly important in February when it's cold outside. Social life. We've learned a lot this semester about how to kind of relax things a little bit. We've heard from students that you want more clarity up front on what social opportunities will be available and what you're going to be permitted to do, and we will provide that information. Testing everybody on arrival will just allow us to open up a lot more campus options early, especially in-room gatherings, which we know are important. And then lastly, students have also asked for more clarity around COVID violations and how we'll handle that. And so again, we're going to provide more information about that tonight. We're continuing to talk to students to get good input from students on what's worked and what hasn't worked. And we'll continue to refine and tweak those plans as we need to over the winter. Bottom line, we feel very, very confident that we'll be bringing students back to campus spring semester. I feel good about the fall. I'm hopeful that the last 3 weeks things will continue to go well, realizing that everything remains fragile and subject to change at any given moment. But I feel very good about opening up second semester. I believe we've proven this semester that we can have a safe residential experience, that we can offer a life-shaping education to our students. And we would only change course second semester at this point. The only thing I can imagine would cause that if we were mandated to do so by the government. With that in mind, we're going to remain agile. It's only early November. A lot will change between now and February. We will be keeping our ears to the ground, working with our team of epidemiologists and research scientists, listening to our students about what worked and what didn't work, your hopes for second semester, talking with our faculty and staff, and making adjustments as we need to. We do anticipate that some students who are remote this fall will choose to be on campus in the spring, and we will look forward to welcoming you. In particular, we hope that some of our international students will be able to get visas and back into the country. We are going to be asking all students to complete a housing declaration by this Friday, just so we have an idea of how many students are planning to be on campus. We realize that you may change your mind, which is fine. But at this point, we just want to get the best snapshot as we can so we can begin to kind of work with faculty and others to make sure we can accommodate students who are going to be on here and who are going to be remotely. We'll share a final deadline in the coming weeks when we'll ask all students to declare definitively. But we realize a lot of people are not in that place yet. So this Friday is really just about getting a snapshot so we can start to plan. So lastly, I just want to end where I started, which is just thanking you. Thanks for everything you've done this semester. Thank you for the parents who've walked this journey with us. A lot to be proud of, even under difficult circumstances. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Provost Kim Copeland.
Thank you, Adam. So as President Weinberg said, one of the things that we did as we were beginning to plan for the spring semester was reflect on the fall. And so let me first just remind you about our approach to the fall semester. We provided all students an option to either be on campus in person or to be remote. We had approximately 80% of our students choose to be on campus, while about 20% of our student population was remote. About mid-semester, we used one of our pulse surveys, our weekly pulse surveys, to talk to students about their academic experience. And what we learned is that on-campus students were largely quite satisfied with their experience. They appreciated the engagement with faculty, the social life they had with their friends, and access to campus resources. Remote students reported being less satisfied. It is true that many remote students commented on remote and hybrid classes going better than expected, but they also referenced their desire not to keep learning online, the draining nature of the hybrid model, and keeping track of everything. Feeling isolated, being on Zoom and computers all the time, I think was a challenge. So in short, what we learned from the fall is that most of our students are craving in-person interactions with their peers and with their faculty. So with regard to the spring semester, we learned that about 80% of the students who responded to the survey said they plan to be on campus for the spring. That includes students who were on campus in the fall, as well as Adam said, some students who studied remotely in the fall who plan to return to campus for the spring. Students who want to be on campus in the spring talked about wanting to learn in person, wanting to be around their friends, again, being able to access campus resources. They want to be able to compete athletically, perform in the arts, and not be at home. Students also feel reassured by the way that Denison has kept COVID cases low this semester and the effectiveness of the community care agreement. Students who do want to be remote talked about having reasons pertaining to ongoing concerns around COVID, as well as just questions about the on-campus experience. So based on the feedback that we received from students, we're focused both on providing quality in-person experience and improving the remote experience, which is one of the reasons why we'll be offering fewer hybrid options, which I'll address in a minute. So with regard to the spring semester, let me begin by reminding you about the academic calendar. And I'll just quickly go over the dates, but let me just say this, the academic calendar is posted on the denison.edu site. Our first day of classes will be Monday, February 1st. So all classes, including in-person classes, will start on Monday, February 1st. The semester will run through Wednesday, May 12th, which will be our last day of classes. Beginning May 13th through Tuesday, May 18th, we'll have a period of final exam days and study days, a fairly typical final exam period for us. And commencement right now is slated to be held on Saturday, May 22nd. Let me just make 3 points about the calendar. One of the things that we heard repeatedly from both students and faculty about the fall is that we did not build in a break. We didn't build in any break days at all. So one of the things that we're doing for the spring semester is building in 3 non-consecutive break days. The reason non-consecutive is because we want to discourage travel to and from campus. We're working right now with faculty and students to figure out exactly when to schedule those days so that they will be of the most benefit for both faculty and students. We also heard from several students that they really wanted to be able to finish their semester in May to allow for internships and jobs in the summer of 2021. So we really worked hard to finish out our semester in May. And I just want to make a comment about commencement. We do have commencement scheduled. We've received a number of questions about commencement. Just want to be as transparent as possible. We just don't know what commencement is going to look like yet. We all want it to be as normal as possible, but obviously there are many factors that will have to be considered before we determine a final plan for commencement. So more to come there. So that's the academic calendar. Now let me just say a word about the instructional format. So as we've already referenced, we'll have a mix of in-person, remote, and hybrid options. However, one of the things that we did hear repeatedly was that the hybrid format, and by hybrid, what I mean here is classes that are offered to both an in-person and remote student audience at the same time. That format was just draining. It was challenging for our faculty. It was challenging for our students. So we've learned that in some cases, it's much more effective for faculty and students for some courses to be designed and delivered specifically either to an in-person audience or to a remote audience. Therefore, one of the changes for the spring is that not every class will be offered in a hybrid format. That means not every class is going to be available to remote students. However, I want to make it clear, some departments are still planning on entirely remote classes. Some multi-section courses will have sections that are taught entirely remotely. Some faculty will still elect to teach a hybrid course, meaning that both in-person and remote students will be able to take the course synchronously. Some faculty members will choose to accommodate remote students in an asynchronous way. We also recognize that there will be some students, and here I'm thinking specifically of seniors who may have particular graduation requirements that they're worried about. And we want to make sure that seniors are able to get those graduation requirements, get those courses taken in the spring semester. So if there does happen to be a course that's not available to a remote senior, we encourage those students to contact the provost office and we'll work with you to get those course arrangements handled between you and the faculty member and the department. We'll also ensure that students who need to be remote for short-term periods due to quarantine or isolation or other exceptional circumstances will be accommodated in the classes that they're taking. Okay, so that's a little bit about the instructional format. Let me say a little bit more specifically about the course delivery modes. And one of the things that I want to make clear that President Weinberg indicated, these course delivery modes will be indicated on the spring registration database. So you'll be able to see what the plan is, at least the instructor's plan at the time the schedule was submitted, and for the start of the semester, how they plan to deliver the course. So those 4 delivery modes are a fully in-person course, a course that's transitional. And what I mean in this case is a course that may start in a remote format, but the instructor plans to transition to in-person format after a few weeks. So hopefully by March 1st at the latest. Some faculty members may choose what we're calling a mixed mode format, which means that there might be a weekly schedule where some days are remote and some days are in person. So that's a mixed mode. And some faculty members will choose to teach courses entirely remotely. So those instructional modes will be indicated with each course when students are registering for classes. So you'll be able to see what those instructional modes are. In addition, we'll note for each course whether the course is open to synchronous remote students. In other words, is it going to be a hybrid course similar to what we had this semester? Let me say a word just about the course grid, because I know there have been some questions about what we'll do about classroom spaces and also about the course grid. So as we did for the fall, classroom capacities are going to be determined based on the 6-foot physical distancing that we've had in place for the fall. We'll continue that for the spring. As we did for the fall, this means that we need to expand the course grid a little bit. We'll start classes in the morning at 8. Daytime classes will end at 5. We'll also have to be creative with spaces, using spaces again, like Slater Auditorium, Lamson Lodge, to allow us to schedule all the classes that we need to schedule. As soon as we can, we will return to providing outdoor options for classes with the tents, but obviously at the start of the semester in February, weather likely won't allow us to do many things outdoors. Do want to note, as I said, that daytime classes, the daytime grid will go from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are adding a couple evening class slots, so there will be evening classes. There will be a Monday, Wednesday evening slot from 7 to 8:20 and a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3-day-a-week option from 7 to 7:50. We'll continue to accommodate the block that we have reserved for athletic practices and ensembles. That will continue to be from 5 to 7 p.m. every day. And as we did this fall, there will be 20 minutes between classes. Okay, finally, and I know this is important to students, I got some questions about this today. Students are anxious to know when they're going to be able to register for classes. So more information will be coming to students this week, but let me go ahead and share with you what the tentative dates are. We're planning for course registration in December and January, and more specifically, and keep in mind these dates are all tentative because we're building the course schedule as we speak. We anticipate releasing the spring semester course schedule to students on December 9th. We expect that seniors will register on December 14th and 16th. Juniors register on the 17th and 19th of December. Sophomores will likely register January 5th and 7th, and first years will register January 8th and 11th. And as I said, information will be coming this week to students from both the registrar's office and if you're a first year student from the first year office regarding registration. Just want to stress again that you will know what the instructional mode is for the class when you are registering for the class. I also want to note that final housing commitments will be due after you know what your course schedule is. So there will be a quick turnaround, but we've worked closely with Carrie's office in terms of housing so that you can get your course schedule in place before you have to make that final commitment. Registration will proceed for students in the way that you're normally used to doing registration. Just want to point out that you won't need a PIN, kind of that passcode that you usually have to get from your faculty advisor to register. Finally, let me just say a word about academic advising. We've just emailed all faculty advisors and asked them to reach out to their academic advisees to schedule advising appointments before November 20th. So before we wrap up the in-person on-campus part of the semester, we're hopeful that all students will be able to meet with their academic advisor. Those conversations will obviously be different than the academic advising conversations you've had in the past. These conversations will be more holistic, taking a look at your entire academic program rather than focused on just selecting specific courses for the spring. We are asking advisors to be available via email to students during those registration periods in December and January. And I also want to let you know that the provost office and the first year office are working to get in place a type of registration hotline. So if you have questions during those registration periods, you'll be able to get in touch with someone at the college who can help you. So that's an overview of the academic plan for the spring. More information will be coming soon to students about registration for the spring semester. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alexandra for more information about the plans for our testing next semester in community health.
Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. Before I talk about the spring, I just want to share an overview of our fall exit plan, which is set out in more detail in an email that went out from President Weinberg earlier this evening. We feel good, as President Weinberg said, about the viral health of our campus community. The prevalence of COVID on campus to date has been very low, even as the external landscape remains challenging. The health of our campus community has remained steady and good. That's been the view and opinion of our epidemiological partners, as well as the county health department. Still, we want to make sure we're providing students and families with an extra layer of confidence and security should they want it as students disperse and return home. So testing is available for students as they are leaving campus for break. And as was shared in the email earlier this evening, we're making 3 options available to students and families. And I'll review them briefly, and you can read further the details set out in that email. The first option is on-campus COVID testing that'll take place this Friday, November 6th. Conducting the tests 2 weeks before departure will ensure that those anybody who does happen to test positive and their close contacts would be able to serve out any isolation or quarantine that would be needed in time to travel home for Thanksgiving. The second option would be on-campus COVID testing next Friday, November 13th. With that option, if there are students who test positive and close contacts of those individuals, we will have housing, healthcare, and meal services on campus until they fulfill their isolation or quarantine. With that option, students and families would just need to know that students could be here then over that Thanksgiving break. Our county health department has been allowing students needing to isolate or quarantine to travel home to do so if they can travel safely home. So if that were a situation we had, the university would work with you and with our health department to determine what would be possible. But this second option, testing next Friday, we just want students and families to be aware of the possibility of a student needing to stay on campus. An issue that's living alongside that is that we do want to flag, and we have been in touch with our international students who are traveling out of the country. Students who are traveling out of the country, many airlines are requiring proof of a negative test within a certain number of days, and information is being sent out for registration for those needs separately to meet the requirements of the country that they're traveling to. The third option is a test that you can take right upon your return home. This will be a saliva-based PCR test that Denison would coordinate and facilitate, mailed to your home. It would be the administration of the test would be overseen through Zoom with a medical provider through the testing lab. You send it back and you'd have the results within just a few days. It's about a 2-day turnaround time. Because a test reflects the health of the person at the moment it's taken, this option, the take-home test, the do-at-home test, this is the one that would provide the most reassurance upon returning home, especially for those returning to households with at-risk members and or students who have a higher risk of exposure potentially based upon how they're traveling home. And we will share information for measures that students and families can take to reduce risk while waiting for test results. So we have our public health partners, our epidemiological partners, they have shared with us their expert opinion that they do think that there's a way for students to return home and be tested right upon returning home if they're quarantining and taking certain precautionary measures within the home while they're awaiting test results. Denison is arranging, we'll be able to arrange for a test to be sent to your home, and it would be the same test that would be administered on campus. And Denison will cover the cost for any one of these 3 options and cover the cost also if our international students require a test in order to travel. So all of that information is set out further in the email. Regarding spring, before students return to campus, we're going to ask them to quarantine for 14 days, just like we did at the start of the fall semester. We will also ask students to start symptom monitoring and logging during this time with the app. We will then test all students on arrival, as President Weinberg mentioned. We'll use the OSU test that we've relied on this fall. Again, that's one of the most effective and sensitive tests available. Students will be tested when they arrive on campus. And we'll ask everyone just to extremely limit social interactions just for those few days until we get results back. It's typically been within 48 hours or shorter. Actually, in the last stretch, our OSU tests have been coming back even within 24 hours. We're just asking everybody to be super vigilant, really limited in social interactions until those tests come back. Then, given the outcome and if the viral health of the community is strong, we'll be in a good position to permit students to see one another, visit with one another, have guests in rooms according to the kind of guidelines that we've had in place in the last couple of weeks. One of the questions we've received from students is, well, why would we require a 14-day quarantine prior to coming to campus if we're ultimately going to test everybody once they are on campus? And that's a really great question. And the answer is this: the 14-day quarantine before returning is actually really critical to ensure that students are reducing their exposure, don't arrive on campus with the virus, in order to reduce the possibility of spread once the students arrive, especially to their roommates, and also the number of students who have to isolate as soon as that you get to campus because of a positive test result. Also, really important to remind students and families The COVID tests, as sensitive as they are, and we have as sensitive a test as there really is on the market, they're not going to pick up infection that is picked up within the few days leading up to students' return to campus. It's quarantining prior to return that is what minimizes the risk of exposure in those all-important days in the run-up to your return. And that's just all to say it's the combination really of that 14-day quarantine plus the testing upon return to campus that stands to best set us up for success in the spring semester with the health of the community. And obviously so much follows from there. A healthy start, a healthy baseline upon everybody returning is what enables us to kind of open up and allow for that socializing. It's what allows for the athletic activities to take place. So we really do urge everyone to really see it that way, that there's no magic formula. The testing isn't the magic formula, but it's the testing in conjunction with the pre-return quarantine that really stands to best position us for success, just as it really did seem to position us for the success that we've had through this fall semester. So we now have the lived experience of seeing that all of those measures really do work, and we don't want to be complacent about it. So that's what we're aiming for in the spring. So as you know, we've worked closely all semester with Ohio State epidemiologists and public health experts. They've helped us design our current testing protocol. They feel it's been really effective in doing what it was designed to do, which is help us identify potential outbreaks so that we can catch them early and contain them. And based on our success in the fall, we're going to continue with our signal testing protocol that's administering tests to the random sample of about 10% of the population each week. So we've been doing right around 200 tests per week. Often it's a bit north of that. Should we feel that it's necessary based on the number of cases on campus or other circumstances, or in order to further expand different kinds of options like social options like we did this fall, we may administer mass testing to all students during the semester. We will see what the viral health of the community looks like. And then just to say that, as many of you know, testing technology is evolving, and we're exploring some next generation testing options very carefully, keeping our eye on that. And we will incorporate new testing strategies into our protocols if they look like they will be helpful. As was also mentioned, we'll continue with our symptom monitoring. That's going to be especially important during the winter months, continuing with daily symptom monitoring, use of the app, reporting symptoms and expectations. Our health center has been able to be really responsive to that, get people in, do a phone call, triage, get people in to be seen where that's needed, get people tests rapidly when that's needed. And isolation and quarantine protocols will also remain in place, including the dedicated space that we have for those options. So I think that covers that spectrum of health and testing issues, and glad to continue to answer questions in the coming weeks for anyone who has them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Miller and Carrie Ann Meng to speak to student development and residential life issues.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you all for joining us this evening. Carrie and I will be providing you all some key residential and student life updates for next semester. But before Carrie shares some more residential life and housing information for the spring, I just thought it'd be helpful just to first acknowledge all the hard work that we have done to stay healthy and safe this semester. Denison was able to remain largely healthy, vibrant, and safe. And so to our students, I'd like to say thank you for all of your care for our community. We also would like to thank you for your words of gratitude and feedback through our pulse surveys. It was through your feedback that the student development team and I were able to take your real-time input to best respond and continue to support the student experience this semester. So we all should be proud of what we were able to accomplish and manage COVID in the ways that we have this semester and provide somewhat of a normal campus experience this fall. And so on behalf of the student development team and I, again, would like to say thank you. We've learned a lot this semester, and much of our learning came from how you were able to provide us that feedback. And so hopefully will guide how we're thinking about the spring. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Carrie, who can give you some overview and information about our housing and residence life for the spring.
Thanks, Alex. We are thinking tons about spring right now, and we know it's on the minds of students. So aside from courses, you're probably also wondering about housing, and that's what I will talk about primarily tonight. So the first step is to figure out where you're going to be next semester and where you're going to live. All enrolled students, so whether you're remote or in person or commuting this semester, you received an email today giving you next steps. And Dr. Copeland talked about the declaration form and needing to submit that, and then there being a revisiting period, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. That email, however, I want you to keep it nearby because it has lots of good information, and as we know, things change and you'll want to refer to it over time, so keep that one handy. By Friday this week, we do need you to give us your initial intent, so your best guess, your best plan for what you're going to do next semester, and you will do this through your My Housing portal. So you'll get there from My Denison, My Housing, and then you'll have tons of alerts that tell you exactly what to do. Just to give you a little scoop on what comes next, depending on your plans, we'll walk through the different options pretty quickly. So if you're returning to campus and you're already on campus, coming back for spring, you'll depart for break as you normally have in the past. So we want you to take everything that you will need for break. And this break, remember, includes final exams. So you'll want all of your academic materials, your IDs, travel documents, medications, just anything that you're going to need to get through a really long break. We want you to clean your room. Sorry, you got to do it. And we need you to take the perishables and the trash to the dumpster, and we need you to clean up pretty well because, like I said, this is a really long break. Turn off your lights, unplug everything, and leave the room nice and safe. So lock your windows and your door, and make sure you take your keys and your ID because you'll need it to come back in the spring. If you are going remote or considering going remote, we want you to check out with our friends in residential communities. So someone will make sure that you've gotten all your items out of the room and that it's good to go and that we get your key back. You will want to discuss this with your roommate because it'll impact what happens to the room in the future. And again, that's why you need that important email. Refer to that for the options that come along with a roommate going remote. And if your roommate is going remote, you probably will get a new roommate next semester, but we've built a lot of different options into the process so that you can choose that person if you know someone who's returning to campus, or if you have a friend who has an open space in their room and you want to kind of join up and make a quarantine, you can do that. That'll be good. So, like I said, the initial declaration form is due this Friday. Then you will have some time to register for courses, to chat with your family and your stakeholders and figure out what might be next for you in the spring. We know things change, so we will have a second declaration period in January. So that will go from about January 4th until the end of course registration for first year students. And if something has changed and your plans have changed along with it, you'll be able to change your mind and then we can adjust plans accordingly. Okay, at a time when nothing feels familiar, I'm super excited to tell you that move-in for the spring will feel very similar to what you experienced this fall. So you will schedule a move-in time just like you did for the fall. We learned that that worked really well and a lot of you really liked it. You knew when to come and where to go. So we're going to do that again. You'll be able to do that starting December 7th if you have a housing assignment. So we're going to try to be super speedy with the information you give us and get everyone housing assignments as fast as we can so that you can also book move-in time slots. But don't worry, there will be plenty of time slots for everyone. So even if you're not able to do it on that first day, there will still be options once you're able to do so. Those need to be booked by January 13th. So by then you will have registered for courses, you will have said what your final plans are, and you'll be able to pick a move-in date and time. Speaking of move-in dates, those are January 18th and January 9th, or I'm sorry, January 28th and January 29th, and they'll be during the day. So you'll want to start planning for that time period. And again, no need to remember it right now. It's all in that email you got today. And you have heard on this call, and you will continue to hear that you will be tested upon arrival. So booking the move-in time slot and adhering to that is super important to our friends in wellness so that we can be ready for your tests when you arrive. And we'll do it one-stop shop, just like we did on fall move-in. So you'll do your keys and your IDs and all of your testing, everything in one place at one time. So that was super quick. Again, it's that email. You need that. There's a lot to do in there. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Carrie, for all the updates regarding housing residence life. I now want to talk a little bit more about where we are with social life for next semester. As President Weinberg mentioned, we are working on this and we will provide more in November with a detailed plan for social life on campus. But I do have some things that we know and I can share today. First, we will be permitting indoor gatherings, including in-room guests, early in the semester. We are working on making more indoor spaces available for student use, recognizing that outdoors will not be an option in the first part of the semester. We will continue to have a lot of university-sponsored events like fall, and we'll continue to work with students and student organizations on ideas and make grants available to support student-led social activities. I know many of you are wondering about off-campus travel this or next semester, and so I just want to share a little bit about what we know now with that. We will continue to permit only local travel to Granville, Newark, and Heath for necessities and restaurant drive-through and carry-out only. Other off-campus travel will not be permitted. And again, we will remain flexible and agile if we feel it's safe to do so, but we will consider expanding travel options at a later date. Extended off-campus travel for visits for home or family events will continue to limit and will be essential travel, and students will have to quarantine for 14 days before returning to campus. Also, we know a little bit about fraternity and sorority recruitment. There was a meeting we had just last week, and so we will be doing fraternity and sorority recruitment, and we'll be working with our national organizations on a plan for that. Also, our community care agreement and violations of that. As the President Weinberg mentioned, we are working on and will share in the coming weeks our guidelines for how violations of the community care agreement will be handled. But you should know we will have a warning system. We generally will not send students home for a first-time violation. However, egregious violations may result in some remote status given to a student or immediate removal from campus. We also will continue mental health programming and well-being counseling for next term, and our wellness team is thinking through that programming as well, and more operations around social connections and interactions with peers. So that's all I'll have for social life, and I'll turn it over to our athletic director, Nan Carney-DeBoer.
Thanks, everyone. I think I'm unmuted. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Alex and Carrie, for that fine report. I first want to say about athletics is I've been so impressed with the work that first and foremost our student athletes have done and the leadership they've provided this fall. And in addition to that, our students overall in intramurals and recreation and all of the different areas in the Mitchell Center. In addition to that, our sport medicine personnel and our director and our strength and conditioning folks have been just phenomenal. As you know, we put up a temporary strength and conditioning space so we could offer strength and conditioning for all of our student athletes, whether we were going to be able to compete or not. So as you know, we were unable to compete in the fall semester, but we did make great strides in many areas in athletic development, in skill, in knowledge, and mental attributes, as well as strength and conditioning. And as President Weinberg said, we had some incredible and continue to have some incredible inter-squad scrimmages. But what was most impressive is the success rate. Our student athletes listened and learned and followed protocol put in place by our sport medicine personnel and of course our COVID director. And so we were able to work together. We were also able to offer a tremendous amount of outdoor, especially boot camps and other fitness and club and intramural sport activities, which was really positive. And additionally, we were able to open the Mitchell Center and offer, a rotation by appointment to allow individuals to have a great workout experience. As we move into winter sports, you may have read that the North Coast Athletic Conference is not sponsoring championships, but we are hopeful to create competitive schedules with institutions with parallel testing opportunities, so we can possibly compete safely, and that's our goal. We will be bringing back teams early in our winter sports. As of now, it's men's and women's basketball, men's and women's swimming and diving, and men's and women's track and field. And they are working rapidly, as we are, with the commissioner of the North Coast to find competitive opportunities that are safe and that we can handle with other schools. But regardless of the competition, we will continue to work on the development. As you know, we have a leadership development program through the Knetzer Family Institute, specifically for our first and second year student athletes, but we will also continue through our great leadership of our Director of Performance to continue our strength and conditioning, as well as our practices and our scrimmages. As I said before, some athletes will move back to campus, and then we will try to figure out if we will have the opportunity to compete in any way in some of our fall sports in the second semester. So those everything's fluid right now, but we are working at a pace and daily to figure out how we can, because what we want to do is compete. So once again, I really want to extend my appreciation to our students and our student athletes for all that they've done and the leadership they have demonstrated. Christy, I think it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Nan. I'm going to actually hand it over to Adam for a few words before I close us out.
Great. Thanks, Christy. I just want to say one more thing. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It is a pretty big break between the semesters, and we're gonna try to run a winter accelerator that is going to focus on a lot of career-related activities for students. Career exploration has been a priority for the college the last couple of years, and this seemed like a really good moment to kind of beta test some new ideas. We have a great slate of opportunities for students, all of them free. You can do them from any place. They're all online. Students should have gotten an email tonight, and I'll include it with my campus email back out to students and to parents on Thursday. We have a website, but there's just a long list of really interesting offerings through the Knowlton Center, through our brand new Career Launch Lab, through the Liska Center, and through the Red Frame Lab. So take a look at those. Would really encourage students to take advantage of them. And thanks again for being here tonight. Back to you, Christy.
Thank you so much, President Weinberg. I just want to say also thank you for being with us tonight. And I want to remind you that your source for information will continue to be regular email updates that you'll get both from President Weinberg and the weekly newsletter that we send to students and families every Friday. The reopen .denison.edu will continue to be updated regularly. I do want to thank students who are part of Red Corps for giving us some really great feedback on how we can make that site better for spring semester and easier to navigate and find information that you're looking for. So we are working on that. And I also just want to remind you, you can always email reopen@denison.edu with your questions. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon.